Today, we're going to break down this shower scene just here. As you can imagine, filming in a shower yields its own unique challenges. For a start, we have to find a shower big enough to fit me, cameras, model, lighting, and make sure that none of the stuff which isn't meant to be in shot is in shot or in any of the reflections in the room. You've also got to make sure that everything's safe, so that means making sure that the water and the electricity are not going to mix in any way, shape or form, and that you're going to be able to move around enough to actually get all of the different angles, all of the different shots that you need to get. For this particular shoot, we were working with Rimmel to produce an advert for their new Sun Shimmer range, and that meant that we had to show a lot of product being applied by our lovely model just here, and we had to be able to get all of those shots quick enough that she wasn't going to shrivel up like a prune or run out of hot water. Because of all these challenges, we worked heavily to find a location which would be big enough and scouted various location sites. Eventually we found somewhere that seemed like it would have a large enough shower to achieve this. Because we had to work quickly, I didn't want to have to relight, I didn't want to have any issues with hot spots or hard lights creating nasty shadows, so we went with a huge diffusion frame and 3 Keener flows behind that. So we got immediately a really nice soft light. Because we're using the Keener flows through diffusion, we're not having to bounce in a book light. It's basically soft enough with the Keener flows. Adding the diffusion just milks that all out so that they're all one nice source. From there, I had another Keener flow bouncing up into the ceiling to create a little bit of room ambience in the background. And finally, the final touch just here was to add in a dado light bouncing up onto, we had a C-stand holding a silver bounce just out of shot over the shower, just to create a rim light over her as she was standing in place, give a little bit of life to the water and help to bring the product out when she's applying it. So that's really 3 lighting strokes that we got. Big diffusion frame, dado light bouncing up into the ceiling, and then the final Keener flow just adding a bit of general ambience to the room. Filming wise, I was set up, had a monopod for this, and that allowed me to move around, stay tucked up really tight in the edge of the shower, and move very quickly from high to low angle shots. It would have been difficult on an easy rig to move without banging into the model, because you've always got the tip of the easy rig just leaning over the top, so that would have been a constant risk. And the monopod creates a very stable platform. It's a little bit unwieldy in some respects when you've got a big camera on it, but it worked really well in this case. Ran wireless out, and we had a client preview monitor outside of the shower, so we didn't have to have any extra people in there that we didn't need. From there, we set about getting all of our different shots and finally moved on to the towel drying shot. For this, we set things up a little bit differently, threw an LED light up outside of the second floor window we were in, just to push a little bit through and make it seem like there's a bit of sunlight coming in. We moved through into the bedroom where she's getting ready. Again, this was a big set of Keener flows pushing through diffusion, and then another couple of Keener flows bouncing into the ceiling. We had the windows giving a little bit of natural ambience, and then we just shot several takes with her clothes changing each time as she moves through the scene. The final shots are all on the pocket cinema camera, and those are just basically lifestyle filler. A bit of sunlight in the background. We didn't really bounce anything, we just worked in post on that. And that gives us our final sunny scenes after she steps outside. One of the biggest concerns when working with a big brand is making sure their product and their logos work well, the colours are right, and nothing's obscured by a bad highlight, basically. Making sure that we're positioning the lights in the right place, making sure the product is positioned well relative to the camera, and making sure your models, and sometimes you'll have a director, sometimes you won't, depends on the kind of project you're working on, but making sure someone is there to look out for the branding. In this case, we made sure that when the model reaches for the product, she's not covering up the branding. Because these shots are all very short, we need to get as much brand in there as possible when we're moving through all of these different permutations of a shot. We're dealing with a lot of skin. We had to make her skin look good, we had to make the product to look good, and we had to make sure that there was nothing in there which would trip us up. So that means on location, when you're setting up, make sure that the makeup artist is there and she's able to see. Makeup artists can be your best friend on a shoot. They will fix everything they can before it hits your lens. Anything after that, you've got to try and fix it in post, or you've got to hope that you've got enough footage to use a different take. Makeup and hair will make your lives so much easier, and you can make their lives easier by making sure they can see what's going on. In this case, that meant setting up a preview monitor outside so they could see exactly what was being framed up, and if there was anything they needed to adjust, they would know and they would be able to come and make sure that that was working. Now that means that they're applying concealer if someone's got a little scratch. They're looking at how someone's hair's falling if they've got flyaway hair. They're looking to see if someone's got a bit of mascara that's gone wrong, if someone's got slightly sore knees because they've been doing lots of yoga, and that actually happened on this shoot. Model is very active and her knees had some small bruises on where she'd been doing yoga. So immediately, makeup artist could see this on the monitor, came in, applied a bit of concealer to her knees, and we were good to go. If you have to deal with that kind of thing in post, it is very, very difficult to cover it up. Being able to work as a team and enabling your other team members to help you on shoots will pay dividends. It is so much easier to get everything right on the day than to go back and find you have to fix it in post. Where you can, talk with hair and makeup. Work out what they're going to be doing. Tell them where they can see things. Tell them how you're going to be framing things and what you need from them. One of the big takeaways when you're working with big brands is that you've got to be able to make sure everything fits with their brand identity. How the product's shown. Is the product the hero in the shots? In this case, we clearly got a hero product shot right off the bat. That was our first goal. Make sure we get the hero product shot out the way, and then all of the application shots are straightforward enough. We just need to make sure that we get clear details and graceful movements. And the movement of everything has to be thought about in advance. If you know that you're going to be cutting everything as a very fast-paced edit, having your model do incredibly slow movements won't necessarily work. If you need to show something being applied to the whole length of a leg or her midriff or her arm, then you've got to get those movements in camera at this kind of speed, the kind of pace that you're going to need to use them. All of this forethought will help you out massively when you come to edit everything down. Something else which you've obviously got to be sensitive about is your model. In this scenario, our model was great. Felicia, she's not very self-conscious, shall we say. So she was happy to be in that shower for hours on end in nothing but a bikini. Obviously in the final shots, we're trying to imply that she's just showering and she's not wearing anything as you would when you showered. So we have to be careful about how we frame things, and you've got to work with your model on that, and you've got to have a bit of a rapport with the models. Explain to them what you need to capture. Hopefully by this point they will have seen a brief, they will know from the storyboarding what's expected of them, but try to help them feel comfortable with that prior to actually getting them into that scenario. If you can sit down and talk with them, then it will make everything a little bit easier later on. Now in this scenario, obviously we're really close in with the camera, everything's really intimate. It could be a little bit weird. If someone feels like they need another person in the room, we're always very conscious to make sure that we have someone on hand, whether it's the makeup artist or the hairstylist, who will actually be there to make any adjustments. It wouldn't be appropriate for example, me, if the model's there and she's having trouble getting her bikini tucked in so that it's not showing when she's standing there and applying something to her shoulder. It's not appropriate for me just to reach in and tuck it in. In that scenario, that's why you have a hairstylist and a makeup artist there. They will be able to appropriately help your model to adjust anything she needs to adjust. So making everyone comfortable with their role, making sure that they know that they can step in and do that, making sure the model knows that, and not overstepping that bound. The goal of this project was to create a series of Snapchat videos, but also have something which could be utilized in 16:9 as well. To that end, we shot high res, and then we ended up cropping to the vertical videos that we would use on Snapchat. When you're doing that, it means you've got to be very aware of your framing, and you've got to constantly be second guessing how that's going to look in the vertical frame. Now, if you're using something like a small HD, you can actually set up some guides so that you know what your safe zones are, and you can visualize a little bit how that's going to work in both aspect ratios without having to constantly change between vertical and normal 16:9. And then on top of that, having a good idea about what you want the final shot to do, where you want your highlights to sit, and using your light meter, knowing that you want your highlights to be 2 stops over middle grey, or you want your skin on the downside to be 2 stops under or 1 stop under. All of those different techniques are going to help you to create a shot which has depth, dimension, and also works well from shot to shot. So it's not just an isolated frame, but it works on the whole project.